Well, Israel's general elections, of course, one of our top stories today. And for perspective, we're joined on set by a former Israeli intelligence officer who has now put pen to paper and released a thriller in which Chinese gangsters, French detectives, Russian models and Israeli spies all mix. It is a page-turner that will no doubt entertain, but behind the fiction are facts about how our intelligence agencies and indeed our politicians work. A look at how lies, often called fake news, are used to manipulate voters. In English, it is called A Long Night in Paris. Unit 8200 in French, Mr. Dov Alfon. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Now, you have, of course, a rich past in Israeli intelligence. You've also been editor-in-chief for an Israeli newspaper, Haaretz, which you still contribute to. On that basis, before we move on to your book, can I just get briefly your reaction to the results we're seeing there in the Israeli general elections? Neck and neck, I mean, a very close race, clearly a very divided votership over there.
Yes, it's a divided country and therefore it's a divided result. We've got an extraordinary achievement by ex-general Benny Gantz, who founded a party in 2 months' time. He's got there 30 men, exactly like Benjamin Netanyahu. So it's a great result for him. And yet, the next prime minister will be Netanyahu, because in this kind of coalition game, Netanyahu is much better and he has better cards. His natural partners, the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community representative in the Knesset, will certainly choose him over Gantz. And of course, the extreme right, founded in a way by Netanyahu, pushed by Netanyahu. So yes, he has a government, and he has a government very close to the one he had. By my calculation currently, based on these results, he has a 65 seat on the 120 seats of the Knesset. So he had 64. It's not a very big difference. It's probably exactly the same government as he had before.
Indeed, a divided country, but at the same time looking very much from the outside in. The left-wing parties look to have disappeared of late.
Yes, it could be an illusion, also an optical illusion, because a lot of the socialist voters turned to Gantz to push him, turned to the center, while another part turned to Meretz, the ultra-left party, who's done very well in these election results. So I won't say that this electorate disappeared. And yet, for the party itself, for the Labour Party, the classic founder of Israel, the kibbutzim, the entire ideology of the founders, this seemed to have disappeared completely, yes.
Any background as to why? I mean, you do, going towards your book, I mean, there's a lot of talk of how we voters are in general manipulated, how banal or potentially banal news stories are highlighted and used by politicians.
And this is certainly due to this prime minister, who is a master of these really under-the-belt strokes. Only 2 weeks ago, before the elections, he had this bizarre communique about Iranians taking and hacking the telephone of General Gantz, and there are awful things on this guy's phone. I won't talk about it, but the Iranians know all about it. This is the kind of innuendo that doesn't mean anything. But he is putting himself as the head of the Cyber Command Israeli unit, as a kind of guy who knows perfectly well about the private lives of his direct competitors and other politicians. And this is the guy, Benjamin Netanyahu is exactly this kind of manipulator and a dangerous politician.
Which we're seeing across the world. I mean, indeed, your fiction is sadly becoming more and more fact. But is that because, heads of state have so much control now that they control? The intelligence services aren't coming out saying, well, hang on, he can't know that.
Well, he doesn't. That's the thing. Unit 8200 belongs to the Ministry of Defense and to the army. And they are, of course, against giving their information directly to Prime Minister for his own good and his donators' own good. But yes, more and more politicians around the world want to have control of their own intelligence organizations, and intelligence officers everywhere in every democratic country face this kind of battle, really. And they are doing pretty well, but on the long run, it's very difficult to know what's going on.
Well, let's take a closer look at our intelligence services, because your book, which, is fiction, but really, I believe the motivation appears to have been actually to get a message across to the readers about the state of our intelligence services and how they actually work.
The strangest thing is, I wrote a dystopic book meaning this is a political thriller, and I warn you, readers, Israeli readers at first, that this could happen. So take notice. And then it looks like the prime minister's advisors read the book and decided, whoa, that's a pretty nice instruction manual for how to do. And so I'm a bit confused about this will to go into really dirty trick, almost Nixonian in their approach, and to use the book advices on how to do it. But this is what we saw during this campaign. And I think that Netanyahu portrayed it as there's a fictional prime minister, yes, right?
Yes.
He's not named, but he resembles very much the actual prime minister of Israel, yes.
How much of your book is fiction and how much is based on your insider knowledge, having worked for the Israeli defense? Because it's true that, you know, from people not within that world, when we think of spies, we think of the guy who follows you down a narrow street, and that clearly isn't the story.
It's true. As an ex-intelligence officer, I was very much surprised how people perceived spies nowadays in the 21st century as this kind of John le Carré, Graham Greene, you know, maybe they have a Burberry raincoat and they look on the streets. It's not like that at all. If someone follows you on the street, he's probably 4,000 miles away from you. He spies you from your phone probably gives him a lot of information, your computer, your home. Every time you open your car with this electronic key, you give a signal that you are here and you just open your car. This is the kind of spying that's going on.
But the average Joe Soap, we all feel we're safe because we're not committing any crime, so why would anybody be bothered following us?
Let me give you an example. You get out of the studio and someone asks you, excuse me, where is line 86 to the center of town? And you tell him, I don't know, I'm taking a taxi right now. And he asks you, oh, thank you very much, have a nice day.
Yeah, quick directions.
It took maybe 30 seconds. But if this guy was on the following list of Iranian services, Chinese services, or Israeli services, then they are going to ask themselves, what these two just exchange a few words, right? Let's put this nice lady on a watch for a week. Let's read all her emails. Let's have all her text messages. Let's follow her phone conversation for a week. And then we'll know better if she's part of the conspiration we are following. So it could simply fall on you on every corner, on every street corner, really. You are not safe at all.
No, for somebody already slightly paranoid about all things. Well, it is an entertaining read, but a perhaps frightening one, Mr. Dov Alfon. Thanks so much for coming in to give your time. A reminder to our viewers at home, in English, it is called A Long Night in Paris, out in English and French now. It came out in Israel 2 years ago, or back in 2016 even. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.